welcome to Pure Yoga Vinyasa Flow, and it's the third week of February, and this is working on the Manipura chakra, which is around the tummy. So it's working with strength, and the element of this practice is about fire in the belly. So what we're going to be doing today is doing a lot of core exercise work, but we're also going to be doing some strengthening of the legs as well. So we'll be transitioning from floor to standing quite regular through this practice. I really want you to think about trying to find the core engagement if you can throughout the whole of the flow. We're going to be doing the Vinyasa flows in this as well. So in between our core practice, we will flow through some movements. So it's working the third chakra. And what I want you to think about with the breath on this practice is making sure that you're not holding the breath when you're trying to do some strength work. And the slight difference in the core engagement stuff is we take the exhale when we lengthen out the limbs. So unlike when we usually flow with a Vinyasa flow, where we flow, inhale brings you to extension, exhale brings you to flexion, it's reversing that slightly. So the inhale prepares and the exhale takes the move. I'll try and guide you as much as I can through this. And the key element here is trying to keep those rib and hips tethered, so we can keep that neutral spine. So we're not going too much into a lumbar lordosis. We're trying to keep it neutral, but we're also not trying to go into that posterior tilt where you take it into lumbar kyphosis. So neutral spine, rib and hips tethered. Let's get started. So we're going to come to laying down on the mat first. So bringing the feet to the front of your mat, your bums into the middle, come down onto your backs, gaze facing upwards. Lift up the tailbone, then tuck the tailbone towards the feet, bring the back down onto the mat so we find a little bit of a neutral spine where it isn't too arched in the lower back. Bring the hands down by the sides of the body, let the feet relax, let the hands relax, take a close of the eyes. So we're going to take a few moments just finding our presence on the mat. So have a little scan of the body from the top of the head down to the fingertips, down to the toe tips. Just making sure that you're looking after anything that needs looking after, being aware of anything that feels tight, anything that may be slightly injured. And just think about all those places, keep them in the mind throughout the flow. When you've taken that scan of the body from the top of the head to the fingertips to the toe tips, start to bring your attention to the breath. So choice to use the nose throughout the practice if you can, or you can use the mouth also if you wish. Particularly on the core engagement stuff, you might want to take the strong exhales out of the mouth. So for now, try and bring your focus to bringing it in and out through the nose before I get you to change it on the core work. Close the eyes. Breathe the breath deep into the belly. And then let that air come out. So I'd like you to place your hands on top of the belly, and we're going to do a little bit of core recruitment. So this is for the core work. So as you breathe in, let the belly blow up like a balloon. Then as you breathe out, sharp exhale out and squeeze the belly back. Bring it back to normal breath. So that's the kind of exhale I want you to take when we move the limbs long in core work. For now, we're going to take a little articulation of the spine. So as you breathe in, reach the hands up and over the head, and as they start to come down to the mat, take an interlace of the fingers, bring both of the feet together, and then bring the arms over to your right side of the mat. Bring the feet over to the right side of the mat, making a half moon shape on the floor. Relax the shoulders. We're taking our body, our spines into lateral flexion. So both sit bones should be grounded, both shoulder blades should be grounded, and the movement is coming from the waist. If you want to take the left foot onto the top of the right foot to get a little more stretch down into the outside of that left thigh. Breathe into that rib cage on the left side. So remember that breath. It's so important not to hold the breath when things start to get a little stressful as we move for the practice. Then coming back through centre with both the hands and the feet, and then take everything over to your left side. Bringing your feet over, your hands over, maybe crossing your right foot on top of the left, keeping sit bones, shoulder blades grounded. So the torso is facing up, the gaze is facing up. Try and relax the shoulders. Breathe into that rib cage on the right side body. Then bringing the hands back to centre. Bring the feet back to centre. Bring the arms out to a T shape, palms facing down. Take a bend into both knees. Keeping the knees and ankles together, let the knees drop over to your right side and your gaze over to your left side. And just allow yourself to take some rotation through the spine. Just letting gravity take a hold of the knees. Try not to force it, just let everything relax to that right side. Maybe gazing to the left hand to take a full rotation through the spine from the neck down to the sacrum. That left shoulder staying grounded if you can. Then bringing the knees back into centre, and then take those knees over to your left side, your gaze to the right hand, and try and keep that right shoulder down. Try and keep the tailbone to tuck and the rib and hips to tether, so we protect that lower back. If you gaze to the right hand, full rotation from top to bottom of the spine. So we're doing lateral flexion, we're now doing rotation. Bring the knees back to the centre. The only thing we need to do now is extension and flexion. So keeping the knees bent, bring the hands down by the sides of the body. Push into the feet. Slowly on your inhale, raise those hips up to the ceiling. Bringing that chin into the chest. On your out breath, roll back down, one vertebra at a time. Bringing those hips back to the mat. In breath, bring the knees into the chest and squeeze. Out breath, bring the feet back to the floor, hands to the mat. In breath, push into the feet, push into the hands, raise the hips, send them as high as you can, chest comes towards the chin. On your out breath, release back down to the mat. Your next in breath, bring the knees into the chest, forehead to the knees and squeeze. And then release the feet back down. On your out breath, hands and feet touch the floor. One more in both directions. Lift the hips, push into the feet, bring the chest to the chin, squeeze the bum. Out breath, bring those hips back down, one vertebra at a time. In breath, bring the knees to chest and squeeze. Out breath, bring the feet back to the floor, hands to the mat. So we're going to be taking our first part of core work. Bring the knees up so they're stacking over the hips and we have an L shape through the legs. Bring the arms up towards the ceiling and we're going to be doing some dag bugs. So I want you to think about that lower spine all the time being pushed into the mat and the ribs and hips tethered. On your out breath, lengthen the left leg to the floor, right hand to the back of the mat. And on your in breath, bring it back to centre. And same the other side. Out breath. Release right leg, left hand. In breath, back to centre. Keep pushing that lower spine into the mat. Send left leg out. Out breath. recruit that belly. In breath, back to centre. Same on the other side. Keep pushing the lower spine into the floor. Rib and hips to tether. Out breath lengthens. In breath, back to centre. We're going to do 2 more on both sides. Keep pushing that spine in. Ribs drawn towards each other. Back to centre. Out breath. Release out. In breath, draw back in. 1 more both sides. Out breath, release out. In breath, draw back in. 1 more opposite side. Keep pushing the spine into the floor. Trying to keep that spine neutral. And back to centre. Bring the knees into the chest. Hold onto the knees. Squeeze the knees into the body. And then take a hold of the creases of the knees. Rock up and down the spine a couple of times. Up to seated once. Back down. Up to seated twice. Back down. And this time, on the 3rd time, cross the feet. Bring the hands forward. Step back to plank. And take a vinyasa here of your choice. I'm going option 1, dropping the knees, turning the creases of the elbows, untucking the toes, releasing the chest to the floor. Breath in, we lift up the chest. Breath out, release the chest back down, tuck under the toes, chest back to the thighs with a core engagement strong. And then send your hips up to the ceiling and the heels towards the floor. Take a paddle of the feet here, a little movement through the hips. Then we're coming into the front of the mat. So either step or hop to the front of the mat. And then allow that body to fold over the legs. Soft bend in the knees if you need to. Let go of the head. So we're going to start to bend into the knees. Try and keep the knees tracking over the heels as much as possible. And bring the bum as low as you can. Feather-light touch through the toes. Then from this space, bring the arms up by the sides of the ears. And then lift the chest away from the thighs, trying to sit as far back as you can. Feeling the weight more in the heels. And when you've arrived in this chair position, try and draw the belly back. So trying to keep those knees a little more over the ankles rather than over the toes works the hamstrings at the back of the legs a little more than the quads. Sit back a little further if you can. Lift the arms a little higher if you can without flaring those ribs. Holding it here for another 4, 3, 2, 1. Now bring the hands back and behind you, palms face down. Turn the shoulder blades out. And then come up onto the toe tips, pushing the heels to stack over the toes. Trying to stay nice and strong in the core, rib and hip tether, really working the muscles and strength of those legs. So working with that 3rd chakra. The colour of this chakra is yellow and the element is fire, strength work. Bring the heels back down, reach up with the hands to the ceiling. And then on your out breath, fold from the hips, bring the arms to the sides, then down towards the floor. Let the head go. Breath in comes up to a half lift. Breath out, we plant the hands, step back to a plank. And then lower to a vinyasa of your choice. I'm still dropping the knees on this one. You can do straight bodies if you wish, or hover. Push into the hands, lift up the chest. Release the chest back down, tuck under with the toes. Chest comes back to the thighs. Push into the hands, push into the feet. Lift up the hips and squeeze those heels back. Arriving back in down dog, feet hip width apart, hands shoulder width apart. Just taking a breath in this space. We're going to make our way back onto our backs. So either gaze in between the hands, bend the knees and step the feet forward into a seat, or swing the legs around. Bring the feet forward, bums into the centre, arms shoulder height. On your out breath, slowly and mindfully
Bringing that torso down to the floor, using core engagement to get there. And as you arrive with the shoulders down on the mat, bring the shoulders to the floor, hands down by the sides of the body. So take a bend into both knees. Reach the feet up. On your in-breath, push into the hands, lift the hips. Out-breath, release those feet towards the mat. In-breath, lift the hips. Out-breath, bring the hips back down and the feet to hover off the mat. Keep the lower back pushed into the floor. In-breath, lift the hips. Out-breath, bring those feet to a hover. In-breath, lift the feet, lift the hips. Out-breath, bring those feet to a hover. Keep that core engagement. In-breath, lift. Out-breath, feet come to a hover. 3 more. In-breath, lift. Out-breath, feet to a hover. 2 more. In-breath, lift from the lower belly. Out-breath to a hover. 2 more. In-breath, lift. Out-breath, feet come to a hover. 1 more. In-breath, lift. Out-breath, keep that belly drawn back as those feet come to a hover. Then bring the knees into the chest. Squeeze the knees in. Maybe have a little rock of that body from side to side. Then take a hold of the creases of the knees. Rock up and down the spine 3 times. Up to seated once, back down. Up to seated twice, and back down. This time on your 3rd time, cross the feet, place the hands forward, step the feet back to plank. Take a vinyasa of your choice. I'm going straight body, releasing to the floor, elbows graze the ribs, keep the core center strong. Push into the hands, lift the chest, inhale. Out breath takes you all the way back to down dog. Lifting the hips, hands squeezing those heels back, having a nod and shake of the head. Choice to paddle if you wish, or use the stretch of that back chain of muscles by just squeezing the heels down. Take a breath here in down dog. We're going to make our way back to the front of the mat. So either step forward or bend the knees, gazing between the hands. Jump the feet through and then allow the body to fold over those legs. Let go of the head. So taking a bend into both knees. This time let the feet track a little more over the toes. So we're getting a bit more flexion, dorsiflexion in those ankles. Bring the arms by the sides of the ears. Then lift the chest away from the thighs. Feel like somebody's pulling their hands forward and the hips back. Settle as low as you can. You'll notice compared to the first chair that this starts to take a little more out of the front part of the thighs as those knees come a little further over the toes. The weight's a little more distributed through the whole of the foot, maybe a little more into the ball of the foot. Keep that rib and hip tether, keep the arms lifted. Breathe deeply in this space. Then take the hands behind you, palms face down, squeeze the shoulder blades together, come up onto the toe tips, keep those knees forward over those toes. Notice the fire burning in those thighs. Working strength into that body. Then release the heels down, reach up with the hands. On your out breath, fold from the hips, bring the hands around to the sides, then to the floor, let the head hang. Breath in, come up to a half lift. Breath out, step back to plank. And then take your variation. I'm sticking with the straight body all the way to the mat, elbows grazing the ribs. Onto the toes when you get there, push into the hands, lift up the chest. Release the chest down, tuck under with the toes, bring the chest back towards the thighs. Push into the hands, push into the feet, lift up the hips and squeeze those heels back. Holding it in down dog just for a couple of breaths. Then we're going to make a way back to a seat. So either jump the feet through or swing the legs around. Heels come forward, bums come into the centre. Then we're going to take a bend into both knees. Bring the elbows to the inside of the knees and take a hold of the feet. Find a balancing point in those butterfly legs. Okay, so we're going to take a breath in and lift the feet up to straighten the legs. Breath out, bring the feet together and lower to a low bow. Breath in, comes back to centre, hold the feet. Take a breath out. Breath in, straighten the legs. Breath out, bring the feet back together and lower to low bow. Breath in, back to centre, hold the feet. Take a breath out. Breath in, straighten through the legs, keep that balancing point. Take a breath out and find that low boat. Breath in, back to centre, hold the feet. Take a breath out. Breath in, straighten the legs. Breath out, bring the feet back together and come to low boat. Keep that core strong. Breath in, back to centre, hold the feet. Take a breath out. Breath in, straighten through the legs. Breath out, feet back together, take it to low boat. Breath in, come back to centre, hold the feet. Take a breath out. One more to do. Breath in, straighten the legs, take it to that bear position. Breath out, bring the feet together, take it to low boat. Breath in, come back to centre, hold the feet, push the knees out, draw the feet in. Take that internal stretch of those inner groins, holding it in a balancing position, chest pushed forward, shoulders relaxed back, growing up through the crown of the head. Holding it here just from 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Release the feet into a cross, bring the hands forward, step back to plank and take a vinyasa here of your choice. I'm taking chaturanga, elbows grazing the ribs, hovering off the floor, rolling over the toes and lifting up the chest, squeezing the shoulder blades together, and then taking it back to down dog, lifting the hips, squeezing those heels back. One breath in down dog, and then taking yourself to the front of the mat, either stepping or jumping forward, and allow the body to fold over the legs. So again, knees tracking over the heels. Take a bend into the knees. Try not to let the knees come forward. Bring the arms up to the ears. And then lift the chest away from the thighs. Either gazing up to the hands or just in front of you, but try not to dump into that lower back. Sink a little lower if you can. Feather light touch in those toes. Bring the hands together at the chest. Bring your left elbow to the right knee and turn and rotate to your right side. Both knees to stay level. The stretch through the waist. An anchor of that left elbow to the right knee helps with the twist. Keep those hips as low as they can be, knees as much over those ankles, feather light touching the toes. It will feel like it challenges your balance. Strengthen those legs. Come back to centre. Step your left foot back, drop your left heel down, windmill the left hand up and over and sink in to your warrior 2. Fatiguing that right leg maybe a little more. Sinking in those hips a little deeper. Strengthening those deltoid muscles in the shoulders, keeping the arms out long. Easy breath in. Long breath out. Then on your next out breath, windmill the hands down, either side of your right foot. Step your right foot back to plank. And take a vinyasa from here. I'm taking your chaturanga hover. Rolling through. Lifting up the chest, squeezing the shoulder blades together. Taking it back to down dog. Lifting the hips, squeezing the heels back. Long breath in. Long breath out. So coming forward to a plank position. Coming down onto the forearms. So forearms are train tracked. So they're in line with each other. We're keeping a nice, strong core centre. And then we're going to rock forward and backwards, taking a plank saw. So come forward onto the toes and then come back again, pushing the heels back. We're going to do this 10 times. Forward and back. 2, forward and back. 3, squeeze those glutes. Forward and back. 4 and 5, so strengthening the shoulders, the core centre. 6, the glutes. 7, 8, 9 and 10. Come back up onto the hands, lift the hips, squeeze the heels back. So making your way back forward into chair. Take a bend in the knees, step or jump to the front of the mat and allow that body to fold over those legs. Take a bend into the knees. Again, keep the knees tracking over the ankles. Lift the arms up to ear height. Then lift the chest away from the thighs. Feel the weight in the heels. Feel those hamstrings switching on and those thighs. Relax the shoulders but lengthen the arms. This time, bring the hands to the chest and your right elbow hooks over your left knee. Use that hook. Try not to let the right knee pop forward. Sink the hips, engage the belly. Turning and twisting to that left side. Easy breaths in and long breaths out. Holding it here just for one more breath. Then bring yourself back to centre. Step your right foot back, drop the right heel, windmill the hands up and over, sink into that left thigh. Find that strong warrior two position. Maybe that left thigh feels like it's fatiguing slightly. Breathe through it. Try not to hold the breath. Quite often the breath gets held. If you feel like it's getting too stressful, it's the body's automatic reaction is to hold the breath when it goes into fight and flight mode. Breathe deeply, in and out through the nose if you can. Next breath out, windmill the hands down. Step yourself back to plank. Your choice vinyasa, either dropping the knees, straight bodies to the floor, or bring yourself to that hovering chaturanga. Roll through, up, lift up the chest. Take it back to down dog. Lifting the hips, squeezing those heels back. So we're coming towards mountain climbers now. So bring yourself forward to a plank position and settle yourself in this space. Feet sort of hip width apart. Pushing your hands into the mat, chest cavity into that space between the shoulder blades. Belly's drawn back, squeeze of the glutes. So we're going to do 8 on each side, 16 in total, bringing knee to elbow. So on your out breath, right knee, right elbow. In breath, take it back. Out breath, left knee to left elbow. In breath, take it back. 1. Elbow to knee. Left elbow and left knee. And take it back. 6 more both sides. Keep pushing into those hands. Keep that core engagement strong. Right elbow, right knee. And back. Left elbow, left knee. And back. Halfway through. 4 more to go. Keep strong in those shoulders. Keep breathing long breaths. 3 more to go. 2 more to go. 1 more to go. And lift the hips, squeeze those heels back. So from this position, we're going to jump ourselves forward to the front of the mat, take a bend in the knees, step or jump, and allow the body to fold over those legs. Let the head go. Nod and shake of that head. Then taking a bend into the knees, this time track your knees over the toes, but try and keep the heels pushing down a little bit more weight in the balls of the feet. Arms come by the side of the ears and then lift the chest away. Tuck the tailbone under, sink the hips low. Easy breaths in. Long breaths out. Sink a little lower if you can, but keep those knees tracking over the toes. Keep that tailbone tucked under, ribbon hips tethered, strong in the centre of the body. Holding it just for a little longer. Bring the hands to the chest, weight into your right foot, step your left foot back. Sink the hips low, lift the chest over the hips, reach up with the arms, tether the ribs and hips, don't flare through those ribs, and sink those hips a little lower, straighten that left leg out a little more by pushing that left heel back, but don't compensate in the lower back, keep that tailbone tucked under slightly, lift the arms but engage the ribs towards those hips. Easy breath in. Long breath out. Release the hands down either side of the right foot. Step the right foot back to plank and take a vinyasa of your choice. I'm taking the chaturanga to strengthen my shoulders. But if your shoulders feel a little weak to hold you, bring the knees towards the floor. So taking a gaze in between the hands, take a bend in the knees, step to a seat. And then bring the legs forward, heels pushing forward, toes coming back. So I'm getting quite hot right now because of all this core work. The fire in the belly really heats that body up. Let's keep it going. Hands come behind you, fingertips pointing in. Squeeze the shoulder blades together. Push into the heels, lift the hips to bring it into a reverse plank and point the toes. So we're doing leg lifts, 8 on both sides. Push into the left heel. On the out breath, raise the right leg. In breath, release. Out breath, lift the left leg. In breath, release. 1. And again, the other side. And release. That's 2. 6 more to go both sides. Keep pushing into those hands. 3. Push into those heels. Squeeze those glutes. 4. Halfway through. 5. 3 more to go. Keep those hips lifted. 6. 2 more to go. 7. more to go. And 8. Release the bums down. Take a shake of the hands to relax those wrists. Make your way into a plank. Tuck the feet under or swing the legs around, bring the hands forward, step the feet back. Plank position. Take a vinyasa of your choice. Release to a hover or to the floor. Roll through, up, lift up the chest. Remember, regress it or progress it. Whatever your body feels like it wants to do. Take a gaze in between the hands, take a bend into the knees, step or jump to the front of the mat and allow that body to fold. Take a bend into the knees, track the knees over the toes to try and work with those thighs a little. Arms come up to the ears, lift the chest, tuck the tail down, lift the lower belly up. Lengthen through the spine from the bra line up to the fingertips. Maybe bring it a little lower. One more breath here. Weight into your left foot, step your right leg back, and then lift those shoulders over the hips. Keep that core engagement in the belly. Sink the hips a little lower. Lift the arms a little higher. Tuck the tailbone down, lower belly up, and squeeze that right heel back. You should feel a good stretch in that right thigh. Taking that stretch in that right thigh helps it from that chair position. But we should be engaging the right glute to straighten that right leg. One more breath. Then release the hands down. Step back to plank. Take your vinyasa choice from here. Roll through, up, lift up the chest. Making your way back to down dog, lifting the hips and squeezing those heels back. So that's the last of our chair positions. We have one more floor-based core exercise. Make your way into a seat. Bring the feet forward. Bums into the centre. Arms out, shoulder high. And then slowly bring yourself down to the floor, one vertebra at a time. Bring the shoulders to the mat. So bringing the knees into the chest. We're going to take full stretch out crunches. And the real aim here is to keep that lower back planted on the floor. Keep the strength in the centre. So we're going to go into a crunch first, then out into a long body. Take a breath out. Take a long breath in. Out breath, squeeze that body in. Take an in breath here. Out breath, lengthen the limbs. Keep that lower back pushed into the mat. In breath, come back to centre. Out breath, lengthen. We're doing 10. In breath, back to centre. Out breath, lengthen. In breath, back to centre. Don't let those ribs flare. Out breath, lengthen. 4. In breath, squeeze. Try not to take pressure in the neck. Out breath, lengthen. In breath, squeeze. Out breath, lengthen. That's 7. In breath, squeeze. Out breath, lengthen. 8. In breath, squeeze. Out breath, lengthen. 9. Last one. In breath, squeeze. Out breath, lengthen. And squeeze everything in. Bring the knees in, chin to chest. Then release everything down. Bring the hands out to a T shape. Cross your right knee over your left, and if you wish to find a wrap, feel free to do so. And then take the knees over to the left side. If this feels a little tight on the lower back, maybe uncross that leg. But just let gravity take a hold in the twist as you let those knees drop to the left side. Right shoulder staying grounded into the mat, palm down. One more breath here. Then using that core engagement to lift those legs back to the centre. Taking it the other way, so uncross the legs, left knee over the right, maybe find a wrap of the legs. And then take the knees to your right and your gaze to your left, and just let those legs settle down. Left shoulder staying grounded on the mat. Really stretching out that waist. One more breath here. Engage through the centre of the body, bring those knees back to centre, uncross the legs, squeeze the knees into the chest, maybe have a little rock of that body from side to side. So we're going to take ourselves back through some spinal articulation just to release off that spine and anything that feels like it's tightened through the core work. Bring the hands down by the sides of the body, palms facing down. Knees are in line with the hips, feet hip width apart. Push into the feet, raise the hips, take it into a little back bend. Just holding it in this extension for a few breaths. Really squeeze those glutes, stretch through those front hip flexors into those thighs. Been doing quite a lot of work with those chair poses. And then release those bums back down towards the floor. Bring the knees into the chest and squeeze forehead to the knees, taking it into that fetal position. Stretching through the neck all the way down the spine to the sacrum, lifting that lower spine away from the mat as much as you can. Holding it here just for one more breath. Then release the body down, feet back to the floor. We'll take that one more time. Feet planted, hands planted, roll up from the lower, the middle, up to that spine, around the neck. Squeeze the bum. Try not to let the knees splay apart. And then slowly bringing yourself all the way back down. Feeling each vertebra come to the floor. Bring the knees back into the chest, forehead to the knees, squeeze. Then release the shoulders back down, the feet back down. Hands come out by the side, heel toe the feet out to the edges of the mat, and then just windscreen wipe the legs from side to side. Just get in a stretch through each hip flexor, just a tiny little movement through the waist. And then bringing yourself back to the middle. Heel toe the feet back into the centre. Stretch the legs out long. Bring the hands up and over the head, reaching back behind you, interlace the fingers. Walk the feet over to your right side of the mat. Bring your hands over to your right side and stretch that left side body. Breathe into that waist on the left side. Come back to centre. Take it over to the opposite direction. Hands to the left, feet to the left, stretch the right side. Bring that body back to centre. Bring the knees into the chest. Bring the elbows to the inside of the knees. Take a hold of the shins, ankles, or right side of the feet. Soles of the feet pointing up. Knees draw into the armpits. Thighs to the outside of the ribs. Taking it into a happy baby stretch. Breathe into the spaces of the hip flexors where they're being compressed. Breathing into that space in the lower back. And then release those feet back to the floor. Keep the knees bent, let the knees drop out to the sides, soles of the feet together. Keep that core engagement in the belly so you don't take too much of an arch into the lower back. And just rock those knees from side to side, just giving that lower back a little massage. Keeping that core engaged just for a few moments. And then bring those knees back together. And then make your way into relaxation. Bringing the legs out long, or if you wish to stay in butterfly legs, feel free to do so. Or if you need to bring those knees together in the middle and heel toe the feet out to the sides. Whatever works for you for relaxation for the next few minutes. So just making sure that lower back is relaxed now. Maybe it has a little arch in it. Bring the shoulders down towards the hips. Maybe have a turn of the head in one direction. Back through centre, over to the other side. Back to the middle. Close the eyes. Let the tongue drop away from the roof of the mouth and the lips gently part. So if at this point you quite often turn the video off and go away for a while, to your everyday life, I really strongly recommend you take these moments of relaxation, the time to consolidate everything you've just done through your practice. Bring the focus to the belly. Bring the awareness there, and bring the thought of the colour yellow to that space. The third chakra, the element of fire, Manipura chakra, symbolising strength. And it's found around that space between the belly button and the lower ribs. Fire in the belly. wish to take a few more moments in relaxation, pause me now. If you're coming out with me, start to bring some movement into the fingers, the toes, the wrists and the ankles, maybe into the elbows, the knees. Maybe you wish to take a full body stretch, stretching the hands up and over the head, stretching through the fingertips, the toes. Maybe arching into that lower back, letting go of any core engagement you're holding there. And then bringing the hands back up and over, bringing the knees in towards the chest. Maybe having some circles with the knees in one direction. Make circles then the other way, massaging that lower spine. And then squeeze the knees into the chest. Your choice to either roll onto one side, or if you're with me, rocking up and down that spine a couple of times. And then finally, making your way into a seat in a cross-legged position, bringing your hands on top of the thighs, keeping the eyes closed. Take a roll of the shoulders up towards the ears, back down towards the hips. Next breath in, reach up with the hands, bring the palms together at the top. Then on your out breath, bring the hands to the chest, soft gaze to the floor. Bring your focal point to that space between the belly button and the lower ribs, that Manipura chakra, the element of fire, that place of strength, the colour yellow. Have peace in your thoughts, words, hearts, from my heart to yours. Namaste.